hair on. You know why? Because it looks like I just had... Oh, hey! Hi! It's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 2, Episode 7. But you know, before we get started, I gotta thank my tipper-doos. This week, Stephanie Yanakakaitis dropped by, so did Charlie Green, Sasha Kuhn, God bless you, Gavin Furukawa, Connor Boyd, Tim Eller, Randall Leopold, Teresa Linden, and I just want to send a special thank you to Tarn Drage for not just your generous tip, but for finally explaining to me how to pronounce Tarn Drage. I hope I am doing it right now, because God bless y'all, I hate to get a name wrong. Because Wilma Fingerdoo is so easy to say. Anyway, thanks Tarn, and my apologies for calling you anything else, seriously. Oh, speaking of, I also called Kristen Young Kirsten last week. Oh, the worst. If you're a Kirsten and you get called Kristen or vice versa, you know what I'm talking about, and I apologize. I blame Jorge's drinks, I'm just saying. I also need to send a shout out to a Redbubble model. We haven't had one in a while. PJ Mizuura is modeling Candy Witch by Denise Cherneau, and I want to say a particularly heartfelt thank you to PJ, because Candy Witch is one of the 4 Denise Cherneau designs that I'm using to support the Rainbow Railroad. It's a Canadian organization that helps the LGBTQI community globally by helping those escape persecution or worse in their own countries. All the proceeds of these 4 designs go directly to the Rainbow Railroad, and to date, I've been able to donate $175.33. Thank you to all of you who've bought one of the 4 designs. I'm sure that your thanks is felt across the world, seriously. Okay, now, Jorge, drink me! Ooh, thank you, Jorge. All right, I know some of you are looking shocked and appalled. This is water. This is just a nice big old glass of ice water, and a couple of you, well actually more than a couple of you, have been asking me about mocktails and why don't I do a mocktail recipe. And so I'm not a big drink mixer. I like what I like. It's simple. I feel silly trying to come up with recipes even just for alcoholic drinks. Never mind the non-alcoholic ones. I would assume that a non-alcoholic drink is any drink without alcohol in it. So if you like a pina colada, don't put rum in it. I'm just saying. But here's the thing. A little squeeze of lemon in anything. A squeeze of lemon in a Coke, a Pepsi, a glass of water, cranberry juice, anything will elevate that beverage to something that feels a little special. Also, a splash of carbonated water also takes everything to a whole new level, unless of course you're already drinking pop. But if you're drinking a juice or something, throw a little carbonated water in there. Also, if you are drinking like a mix of juices, maybe you're doing like just a sunrise of fruity deliciousness, a little pinch of grenadine in there, that'll make you feel like you're taking it to the next level too. So that's my advice. If you don't like drinking, no one's forcing you to. I'm certainly not going to today. Refreshing. So let's get to it. We started this week off by saying goodbye to Tia Coffee. Apparently, Ru was sure. Lawrence seemed particularly humbled by the whole thing, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's easy to slip into a false sense of comfort when a queen's had a few good weeks in a row. And what with Larry's epic 3 wins in a row, maybe a trip to the bottom was just what she needed, I'm just saying. Of course, that doesn't stop any of them from reading Tia's style one more time by shading the lipstick message lipstick color. I didn't think it looked that bad, actually. And you know it wasn't Tia's. As a lovely 7th alternate, she ain't wasting good lipstick saying goodbye to anyone. Seriously. Privately, Ahura felt that Lawrence was lucky that she was up against Tia Coffee, the Macarena of drag, as opposed to Tace, the Janet Jackson of drag. Funny, I thought Janet Jackson was the Janet Jackson of drag. Apparently it's Tace. Publicly, Ahura told Sister she thought she was next to go. And then read her tiger print dress as being unoriginal. Point in fact, the completely original tiger prints of Ellie's and Lawrence Chaney. To deflect the read, Sister said she thought Ellie was next because, well, she's been coasting. Coasting? Ellie's either been in the top or safe. If anyone should know what it's like to be coasting, it has to be Sister herself, seriously. Lawrence thought it was between Ellie and Sister, but then we're into the final 6 queens. Take away 2 and you've got the top 4. And no offense to Ellie, as great as she's done, she's not rocking the boat the way Lawrence, Tace, Ahura, and Bimini have been doing. At least they've all got repeater badges. Tace made a good point. If you don't have a repeater badge at this point, what are you doing here? Seriously. And with their pride a little stung, Sister and Ellie girded their loins as they got out of drag. The next day in the workroom, Bimini and Lawrence entered the workroom badges first, and as they waited for Rue's video message, they reflected on the growing emptiness in the room. Lawrence said she missed Veronica. Apparently she was the only one. So Ahura changed the subject to who Sister was going to copy next. I have to give it to Sister. She has the right attitude. She'd be a fool to get caught up in all the shade that's going around. This is how you play the game. Stay focused, Sister. Seriously. And then there was Rue's video message, which was filled with fashion references, toots, and boots. Could it be a sewing challenge? It was almost too much for some of the queens to think about. Thank goodness Rue arrived with this week's mini challenge to distract them. The library was open because reading is what? Fundamental. Seriously. Sister went first and surprised the heck out of me. I think I laughed at everything she said. I know I'm shocked too. Ellie was okay, but I felt like her reads were long and winding roads that took too long to get to the burn. Lawrence was funny, but she didn't reinvent the wheel or burn anyone near as much as they burnt her, I'm just saying. Tace didn't do great, but she burned Larry pretty good, so it wasn't the worst read. Ahura's burn on Tace was more of a dig at Lawrence. It was fraught with sexual innuendo, and by innuendo I mean Tace's tongue and Ahura's end, I'm just saying. Lawrence and I almost passed out there, I'm just saying. Bimini was harsh. She threw bricks at Sister and called her filler, and then they laughed. When the library was closed officially, it was announced that the winner was Sister. I was with Tace. At least she's won something, I'm just saying. And the reading challenge isn't a bad one to win. And then it was on to this week's Maxi Challenge. The queens would be using unconventional materials to create their own lockdown super sheroes. There was a huge pile of lockdown loot to choose from, and you could see the queens' creative juices starting to flow. Or they were still thinking about Ahura's innuendo. Either way, they'd have to bide their time before grabbing their loot because the mini challenge winner, Sister, got a 15-second head start to collect her materials. And she used her time wisely, I'm not afraid to tell you. She just grabbed everything. It didn't matter what color it was, or if in fact it was usable as a costume. She just took as much as she could get and left very little for the rest of the queens. Ahura started whining about how unfair this was before Sister was even finished, which I'm sure spurred Sister on to grab even more. I know I would. When the rest of the queens were able to get in on the grabbing, all hell broke loose. Tace, or should I call her Eddie Pie Hands, was beyond flummoxed to the point of asking, whose hands are these? Maybe she could use some lovely chairs. Chairs would be nice. Despite Sister's attempts at mopping everything for herself, there still seemed to be a lot of things for the other queens to grab at. Not that anyone really wanted any of it. Bimini seemed to be the only one who was left with the dregs. A pillowcase and 2 palm leaves. I hear that's how Givenchy got started. Lawrence, being an experienced sewer, was worried. There was no stretch fabric, the best friend of drag queens, big and small, worldwide. Also, none of it was fabric in the first place, so she was convinced that there'd be a lot of trial and error off the hop. Ahura was not completely happy with her haul, so she took a stealthy trip over to Sister's table to see what 15 seconds got her. It was a lot. Sequin pillows, rhinestones, it was a veritable smorgasbord. The options were too many for Ahura not to resist seeing if Sister would part with any of it, which I have to say I thought was ballsy for someone who's been calling Sister a copycat all week. And I'm not the only one who thought so. Sister was hilarious about it. Start with some compliments, she told her. Funnily enough, Ahura couldn't do it, but I feel that reads well into her character. Even pressed, she can't lie. Personally, I think she should have just offered Sister the blowy. Ellie was in her Ellie-ment. See what I did there? She's like me, she loves an unconventional sewing challenge and seemed to be eager to get started. Was anyone else surprised and impressed by the gaiters sister whipped out of that AstroTurf? Clearly, this is another queen who's not afraid of the sewing machine. Lawrence noticed it too because all of a sudden she seemed to get chummy with sister while they got their designs underway. Maybe she wanted to snag an item or two from sister's pile. Sounds dirty. Ahura and Taste chatted too, but I have to admit I was happy to hear Ahura say she wasn't going to let herself get distracted by Taste's lack of sewing skills. Good for her. They may be roommates and all, but I bet that if Taste wins the crown with Ahura helping her along the way, Taste won't be sharing that crown, I'm just saying. She might let her look at it, but she's not letting her wear it. Bimini seemed to be struggling to find inspiration with the materials she had collected. Personally, I think those pom fronds were holding her back. Seriously. But not to worry because help was on the way, darlings. Rue arrived to check on the queens and she brought a friend. Drag queen extraordinaire, Raven, who looks stunning by the way. I think her makeup is the one I'm going to try to copy next. I think go from Trixie to Raven. I could stare at her makeup forever. Seriously. Ellie was their first visit, and you could tell she was beyond excited to meet Raven, and of course, Ellie D's makeup skills were discussed. Raven was impressed because she couldn't see an obvious influence where Ellie's makeup was concerned, and what she was doing was great. Well done, Ellie, seriously. As for Ellie's design, she seemed to have a solid plan, and although she was taking a chance of a longer dress design, she was still going to stick with what she knows as far as her pink unicorn swirled fantasy could provide. Sister wasn't impressed. Color me shocked that she wasn't focusing on her own design. Maybe she was waiting to see what some of these queens got started so she'd know better who she could copy. Ahura was next, and she was super excited to see her first fave fashion queen face to face. Apparently, she sees a lot of herself in Raven. I think it's called filler. Rue brought up Ahura's fashion design background. Apparently, she has a degree in fashion that she's not finished paying for. 60,000 pounds? Holy crap! And from the sounds of it, she might not if she can't win a RuPaul's Drag Race design challenge. Fair point. Bimini wasn't impressing anyone with her design, but in her defense, she admitted that she can style a look, but she's better at telling other people what to make for her. Hey, that's half the challenge. Knowledge is power. So is making sure you've got that lip sync memorized, just in case. Seriously. Sister was next and started the butt kissing early by calling Raven a chicken. Or it could have been a thinly veiled insult. Raven, chicken. I don't care. After getting some makeup advice from Raven, Rue pointed out that Sister still doesn't have a repeater badge and that she was called a filler queen by Bimini. In spite of that subtle smackdown, Sister let her delusions take center stage by saying how complimentive the feedback has been and she can feel her own natural progression. Of what? Her progression out the door? Where are these positive feedbacks? Short of beating Ginny Lemon out of the Who Wore It Best challenge of episode 3, she's been safe with no feedback twice or in the bottom being critiqued. I wonder if that hair helmet of hers deflects reality too. Taste was taking a huge chance by going down the bag of chips route with copper pot scrubbers, and even though Raven and Rue tried to talk her out of it, kinda, Taste was going to lone wolf it. If she was gonna win, it was going to be all her. If she failed, it was because she ignored the host of the show she's trying to win, and the queen who paints her. Choices. Last but not least was Lawrence Chaney, who seemed to have caught his breath after last week's lip sync for your life. I like that she brought up last year's sore loser Davina DeCampo, who didn't lip sync once during her season. You know who did lip sync? Season 1 winner, the Vivienne. See? False sense of security. Seriously. As far as what Lawrence had planned, she seemed to have mopped all the metallics in the room, but she was still not married to anything because she still had to see if any of it would sew on the machine. Before they left, Raven gave Larry some great makeup advice about putting some color on her eyelids. I never noticed that Lawrence did that until Raven mentioned it. I'm excited to see what Larry does with that advice, seriously. And then it was goodbye to Rue and Raven and hello to a lot of queens starting to sweat over their looks. Bimini seemed to have found an unclaimed curtain that she was excited to Vivienne Westwood up. So was I. I love Vivi Westwood. That's what I call her. She never answers. Tace, on the other hand, was doing more than sweating. She was also slicing her hand up with all that copper wool. Imagine that. Not only am I surprised that it took her that long to think that gloves would help protect her in the process, I'm surprised she continued on with the plan at all. Oh well, she didn't ask me. Lord knows she didn't ask Ahura. Speaking of Ahura, she seemed to have a solid direction she was taking her blue materials in and was making short work of it with that glue gun. Larry, on the other hand, had hit a wall. Her original material choices weren't sewing very well, so she moved on to recycled storage bags because, well, they sew so great too, I'm just saying. Did we learn nothing from the queens doing this challenge last year? Mind you, Davina DeCampo won using those same bags, so who can say? Then it was elimination day, and these queens had their work cut out for them. No one seemed to be close to finishing their super shiro looks. Ahura was hell-bent on winning this week's Root Peter badge, so I was worried for anyone who was trying to get in her way. Seriously. Someone who was not in fear of doing that was Tace. How do I know? She used the word pubes to describe how she'd finish her outfit. That's brave. Larry was worried that she'd be finished at all as most of her outfit was in pieces on the floor. Of course, Ellie prodding her with questions of whether or not she'd be finished wasn't helping. I suspect that was Ellie's point. Hey, if you can't win fairly, pull the rug out from under the competition is all I'm saying. Seriously, figure out how to live with yourself later. Speaking of shade, Ahura asked her BFF sister how she was doing with her man stubble, which was my drag king name in high school. While they were making up, Sister and Lawrence talked about how being different at an early age affects you as you grow into an adult. It's not easy. I was lucky. I was poor white trash and a love child of the 60s, so there were no allusions to my impact on the real world, so I never tried. Sure, I was ostracized for being gay, but it wasn't the only thing I was picked on for. I was gonna be picked on anyway, so I figured I might as well enjoy myself in between the hazings. As for Larry, it all seemed to turn around for her when she started standing up for herself. See, it does get better, but you still have to make an effort is all I'm saying. Then it was on to the runway. Rue looked great in this mint bustier number. Michelle looked busy in her high pony and floral brocade jacket. Graham was also wearing a brocade jacket, but because he'd eschewed the high pony, it wasn't as busy on him. Finally, we had the beautiful TV presenter Maya Jama rounding out the judges' table. Tace was first as Exfoliana Bolt, and if this had been a Head & Shoulders photo challenge, Exfoliana would have snatched the runway. As it was, all she seemed to do was expose herself, so it was a finger don't for me, seriously. Lawrence Chaney's Lawrence of Chania was next. I was impressed that she was able to make that outfit in one day. Mind you, she was smart to cover her corset to give the look of a finished silhouette. Fingerdoo for Lawrence Chaney. Ahura's COVID-19 was fabulous. She was funny off the top with her rolling pin reveal, but nothing could have prepared me for her super shiro. Oh, not only was this outfit stunning, but when she popped her arms forward and revealed that full beauty, and I do mean full, of those sleeves, it was like that scene in Jurassic Park. She was a dragosaur. Ahura said this runway was blue to honor the NHS frontline workers, but it looked to me like she was poking fun at Sister's brand. Who's copying who now? Seriously. Either way, this was a huge finger do and proved that Ahura's $60,000 education was worth every penny. Would have meant a whole lot more if she'd actually won some money to help pay off that loan, I'm just saying. Bimini's Dr. Isabella Blows a Lot was, well, way better than whatever she was trying to show Rue and Raven the day before. Although it wasn't great, it was still a finger do for me. Ellie Diamond's exuberant Ellie was stunning, although it did look better from the front than it did from the back. Either way, this was a solid finger do for me. I'm going to shock you all by saying I didn't hate Sister's Garden of Sheeden. Don't get me wrong, it was the farthest thing from fashion on that runway, and it just swallowed her up, and not in a sexy way. But there was a little Shop Ahura's feel about it that I'm not mad at, and it looked like she used almost all of the materials she grabbed as opposed to being selfish, and the creativity she harnessed to come up with this look in the first place was, well, I want to say drug-induced, but I'm going to go with imaginative. But the execution was a fail. Her flower feature looked heavy and awkward. I've been told that. So when it's all said and done, this was a Fingerdoo. But I will say that Sister's makeup was stunning. So it wasn't all bad. As for the judges, everyone agreed that Tayce was stunning. Michelle even called her a superstar, but she wasn't fond of this outfit. Well, it was half an outfit and still far from being a win. I guess beauty isn't everything. Lawrence got a good review. Michelle normally doesn't like a leotard, as we know, but she was impressed by the cut and fit of this outfit. The only critique she had was the orange balls on Lawrence's face. Cue the testicle jokes! No one hated Ahura, which is a nice change from how the internet's been to her of late. Shame on all you haters is all I'm saying. Seriously. Ahura's use of materials, repurposing a lamp to make a corset, those sleeves. Watch, Celine Dion will be calling her for one of these outfits any day now, seriously. Graham Norton went so far as to say he'd have given her a standing ovation if he could. Was Ru stopping him? Bimini's look wasn't the judge's favorite, but they didn't hate it either. Ru said she could clearly see the Vivi Westwood references, and let's be honest, it was way better than what she had started with, I'm just saying. Ellie Diamond got a great critique from the judges, and I have to say, I was impressed with some of the ways she used her materials, especially the padding she used to create that pannier. Clearly, sticking to her brand was a smart idea because it got Ru calling her the big doll of Dundee. What, she'll be selling dolls next week, seriously. Finally, the judges cast their critical eyes on Sister, and boy, did they hate her runway. It hid her shape, it was distracting. Graham was like me, he liked the whimsy and effort that Sister put into creating it and how beautiful her makeup was. But even he admitted she looked like a body you find digging in the garden. It's not a good reference. Back in the workroom, while the queens untucked, Ellie could all but taste her first win. Tayce was gobsmacked that the judges didn't like her look more. She seemed particularly mad that no one recognized the effort it took her to create this look. Well, calm down there, Tayce. At best, it's half a look, and no one cares how much work went into something they don't like when it's finished. It's Sum Ting Wong's navy jacket all over again. Seriously. Sister was convinced that she would be lip-syncing, and no one put up an argument. What the other queens were surprised at, though, was how great Sister thought her outfit was. The fact that she didn't understand what the judges didn't like about it is entirely the root of her problem, isn't it? Well, at least someone liked it. Ellie chose that moment to point out that everyone except Bimini had predicted that she'd be the next to go, and buoyed by the positive comments from the judges, she asked if they still felt that way. Well, Ahura didn't answer the question. She just said that she thought a little variety in Ellie's looks would go a long way. Sister answered the question by saying that Ellie's look wasn't strong. She is high. The look on Ellie's face said there's a dead body amongst the weeds calling the kettle black. Sister's point was that Ellie's a sewer, so now's the time to take risks. Like she did. Well, not like she did. I mean, come on. Take a risk someone likes. Seriously. And then, here's why I like Ellie. She started off on one of her Rose Nyland rambles about wanting the judges to love her outfit and worrying that they might think she'd gone too far. And then she pointed out that, in fact, that's what they said about Sister's look, and they just loved hers. Burn indeed. Back on the main stage, the burns continued. Ru announced that Ellie's runway was a sweet treat. I felt like that burn was the hardest for Sister to hear. Can you imagine if Ellie had won? Well, she didn't. That honor was heaped on Ahura, and well deserved, seriously. There was this whole moment when Ru tried to make it look like Lawrence was going to end up in the bottom with Tayce, and then the camera cut to Sister, and we all knew Larry was safe. So it was Tayce and Sister in the bottom, lip-syncing to Jess Glynn's Don't Be So Hard on Yourself. And I have to say, I don't think anyone thought Sister was going to steal this from Tayce. Even if Tayce had been wearing Sister's outfit, she was going to win this. As ugly as her outfit was, I couldn't take my eyes off Tayce. Every close-up of her could have been in a magazine. Poor Sister, on the other hand, did a good job, but in a different way, and unfortunately that way didn't impress Ru. And it was Sister who became the sixth queen to sashay away. Aww. So, what do you think? Did the right queen go home? Did the right queens land in the bottom? Now that we're down to the top 5, who do you think is next? Is Ellie in trouble? How long can Tayce rely on that face? Is Bimini in fear of blending back into the background? All we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race next week to see how it all plays out, and then, when you're done, you come on back and you see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, don't forget to like this video if you did, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And until next week, miss me! Mwah. Seriously, Jorge. I was so upset at how upset Taste was over her outfit. I know it was a lot of work. I don't know, maybe she thought doing herself bodily harm would prove her mettle, that she was dedicated to the cause, but that copper was beautiful. If she could have figured out a way to work with that copper without it attacking her skin, well then she would have won for sure. I would say it was better than Bag of Chips, but at least Bag of Chips had a skirt. Or a very wide belt, I don't know. Have you seen Bag of Chips lips lately? Ooh, talk about a filler queen, I'm just saying.